The southern ground hornbill is one of two species of ground hornbill, both of which are found solely within Africa, and is the largest species in the hornbill order worldwide. They are carnivorous and hunt mostly on the ground. Their food ranges from insects to small animals. Their nests are often found in high tree cavities or other shallow cavities, such as rock holes in cliff faces. These birds are a long-lived species, having lifespans in the range of 50 to 60 years. In relation to their long lives, they do not reach sexual maturity until 4 to 6 years old, and begin breeding around 10 years old. Their numbers have been declining, due in part to persecution, habitat destruction, cultural beliefs and other factors. They are listed globally as vulnerable. The silvery-cheeked hornbill is a large species of hornbill found in Africa. It measures 75 to 80 centimeters in length, and has a very large cream-colored casque on the beak. Hornbills are the only birds in which the first and second neck vertebrae are fused together. This probably provides a more stable platform for carrying the bill. The family is omnivorous, feeding on fruit and small animals. They are monogamous breeders nesting in natural cavities in trees and sometimes cliffs. The diet of the rhinoceros hornbill is dominated by fruit, but it will take any insect and small animals that it can catch. The courtship and bonding of these birds are critical, as the female must trust the male to provide her with everything when she is incubating and raising chicks. These hornbills make their nests inside tree trunks, and the female stays inside with the eggs and then with the chicks, while the male brings them food. After the eggs are laid, the male collects mud, and the pair pack that mud, along with food and feces, to wall up the entrance to the tree cavity. They leave a very small hole, just large enough for the male to feed the female, and later the chicks, and for the female to defecate through the hole. Once the chicks are fully feathered and old enough to leave the nest, the parents chip away the dry mud to let the chicks out. The great hornbill is threatened mainly by habitat loss due to deforestation. It is hunted for its meat, fat and body parts like casque and tail feathers, which are used as adornments. Tribal peoples hunt the great Indian hornbill for its various parts. The beaks and head are used in charms and the flesh is believed to be medicinal. The most prominent feature of this hornbill is the bright yellow and black casque on top of its massive bill. The casque appears U-shaped when viewed from the front, and the top is concave, with two ridges along the sides that form points in the front, whence the Latin species epithet bicornis. The casque is hollow and serves no known purpose, although it is thought to be the result of sexual selection. Male hornbills indulge in aerial casque butting, with birds striking each other in flight. The male spreads the preen gland secretion, which is yellow, onto the primary feathers and bill to give them the bright yellow color. The Luzon hornbill has a distinctive appearance, characterized by a black body, white tail feathers, and a unique casque on top of its bill. The casque is a hollow structure made of keratin, which serves a role in visual display and vocalization. They are typically found in small groups or pairs. They are known for their distinctive calls, which include loud, trumpeting sounds. These vocalizations play a role in communication within the group and establishing territory. It is endemic to the Philippines, specifically on the island of Luzon. The term endemic means that the species is found naturally only in this specific geographic area. As seed dispersers, they play a crucial role in maintaining the health and biodiversity of their ecosystems. By spreading seeds, they contribute to the regeneration of forests. As with other hornbills, the knobbed hornbill is believed to be monogamous. Its diet consists mainly of fruits, but it will also take insects and small vertebrates. Breeding season spans 27 to 30 weeks and appears to be triggered by a dramatic reduction in rainfall. The female seals itself inside a tree hole for egg laying using its own feces. During this time, the male will provide foods for the female and the young through a slit in the seal. Knobbed hornbills are also an important seed disperser in their habitat and influence the initial fate of seeds of several tropical forest tree species. Sumba hornbill is a medium-sized, blackish hornbill, approximately 70 centimeters long. The male is dark reddish-brown on the crown and nape, with a paler neck. The female has entirely black plumage. Both sexes have a large, dull, yellowish bill with a maroon patch at the base, a serrated casque, and an inflatable blue throat. Due to ongoing habitat loss, limited range, small population size and overhunting in some areas, the Sumba hornbill is assessed as endangered. Like other bee-eaters, European bee-eater is a richly colored, slender bird. This bird breeds in open country in warmer climates. As the name suggests, bee-eaters predominantly eat insects, especially bees, wasps, and hornets. They catch insects in flight, in sorties from an open perch. Before eating a bee, the European bee-eater removes the sting by repeatedly hitting the insect on a hard surface. It can eat around 250 bees a day. If an apiary is set up close to a bee-eater colony, a larger number of honey bees are eaten because they are more abundant. However, studies show the bee-eaters do not intentionally fly into the apiary, rather they feed on the insects caught on pastures and meadows within a radius of 12 kilometers from the colony, this maximum distance being reached only when there is a lack of food. Observations show that the birds actually enter the apiary only in cold and rainy periods, when the bees do not leave the hive and other insect prey are harder for the bee-eaters to detect. The oriental dollarbird is most commonly seen singly with a distinctive upright silhouette on a bare branch high in a tree, from which it hawks for insects, returning to the same perch after a few seconds. It has very light blue patches on the outer parts of its wings which are highly visible in flight and for which it is named. The females are slightly duller than the males, but overall, the two are very similar. Immature birds are much duller than the adults and do not have the blue coloring on their throats. Common kingfisher has the typical short-tailed, large-headed kingfisher profile. It has blue upperparts, orange underparts and a long bill. It feeds mainly on fish, caught by diving, and has special visual adaptations to enable it to see prey underwater. The glossy white eggs are laid in a nest at the end of a burrow in a riverbank. Its flight is fast, direct and usually low over water. The short, rounded wings whir rapidly, and a bird flying away shows an electric blue flash down its back. The early days for fledged juveniles are hazardous. During its first dives into the water, about 4 days after leaving the nest, a fledgling may become waterlogged and drown. Many young will not have learned to fish by the time they are driven out of their parents' territory, and only about half survive more than a week or two. Most kingfishers die of cold or lack of food, and a severe winter can kill a high percentage of the birds. The common kingfisher hunts from a perch 1 to 2 meters above the water, on a branch, post or riverbank, bill pointing down as it searches for prey. It bobs its head when food is detected to gauge the distance and plunges steeply down to seize its prey, usually no deeper than 25 centimeters below the surface. Stork-billed kingfisher is a very large kingfisher, measuring 35 centimeters in length. The adult has a green back, blue wings and tail, and olive-brown head. The very large bill and legs are bright red. Its flight is labored and flapping, but direct. There are 13 races or subspecies, differing mostly in plumage detail. It lives in a variety of well-wooded habitats near lakes, rivers, or coasts. It perches quietly whilst seeking food, and is often inconspicuous despite its size. It is territorial and will chase away eagles and other large predators. Adults dig their nests in river banks, decaying trees, or tree termite nests. A clutch of 2 to 5 round white eggs is typical. The hook-billed kingfisher excavates a nest chamber in an active arboreal termite nest 3 to 6 meters above the ground. The clutch is 2 white eggs which hatch asynchronously. The male helps to incubate the eggs and brood the young. It feeds on insects and frogs. It may dig into the soil searching for prey in a similar manner to the shovel-billed kookaburra. The call and song are mainly given at night. The most common call is a long whistle followed by a series of higher-pitched short notes. The laughing kookaburra is a large robust kingfisher with a whitish head and a brown eye stripe. The territorial call is a distinctive laugh that is often delivered by several birds at the same time, and is widely used as a stock sound effect in situations that involve a jungle setting. It is native to eastern mainland Australia and occupies dry eucalypt forest, woodland and urban areas. A predator of a wide variety of small animals, the laughing kookaburra typically waits perched on a branch until it sees an animal on the ground and then flies down and pounces on its prey. Its diet includes lizards, insects, worms, snakes, mice, and it is known to take goldfish out of garden ponds. This species possesses a tracheobronchial syrinx, which creates 2 sources of vibrations so it can produce 2 frequencies at the same time with multiple harmonics. The laughing kookaburra's call is made through a complex sound production system, by forcing air from the lungs into the bronchial tubes. While the structure for producing calls is present from an early age, the kookaburra's song is a learned behavior. The nominate yellow-billed jacamar is 18 to 21 centimeters long and weighs 16 to 24 grams. The male's crown is glossy copper or purplish and the rest of the upper parts are emerald green. The chin is buff, the throat white, and the rest of the underparts are pale reddish cinnamon. Nest burrows have been recorded in arboreal termite nests, and it is assumed to burrow into earth banks as well, like most other jacamars. The collared puffbird hunts by sallying from a shaded perch to pluck prey from foliage, bark, or the forest floor. Its prey includes lizards, snakes, frogs and several types of large insects. It sometimes joins mixed species foraging flocks and less often follows army ant swarms. Its head and back are dark rufous, the rump a lighter rufous, and the tail orange chestnut with narrow black bars. The folded wing shows fine black barring on a brown background. The black-fronted nunbird takes most of its prey in flight, though it also picks it from the ground and foliage up to about 6 meters above it. Its diet is mostly insects and also includes other arthropods and small lizards and amphibians. It follows troops of primates and army ant swarms to capture prey dislodged by them. The black-fronted nunbird's breeding season varies geographically but generally spans from April to October. It nests in a hole excavated in a bank or gently sloping or flat ground. The clutch size is 3 eggs. The greater honeyguide feeds primarily on the contents of bee colonies, bee eggs, larvae and worms. It enters bees' nests while the bees are torpid in the early morning, feeds at abandoned hives and scavenges at hives robbed by people or other large animals, notably the honey badger. It is known to guide people to the nests of wild bees. A guiding bird attracts a person's attention with wavering, chattering notes compounded with peeps or pipes, sounds it also gives in aggression. The guiding bird flies toward an occupied nest and then stops nearby the nest. Honey hunters then do a final search for the bee colony, and if deemed suitable, harvest honey from the bee colony through the use of fire and smoke to subdue the bees, and axes and machetes to expose the colony. After harvesting the honey guide eats wax that is left. The Eurasian wryneck measure about 16 centimeters in length and have bills shorter and less dagger-like than those of other woodpeckers. Their upper parts are barred and mottled in shades of pale brown with rufous and blackish bars and whiter black streaks. Their underparts are cream-speckled and spotted with brown. Their chief prey is ants and other insects, which they find in decaying wood or on the ground. The eggs are white, as is the case with many birds that nest in holes, and a clutch of 7 to 10 eggs is laid during May and June. The Guadeloupe woodpecker is endemic to the Guadeloupe archipelago. It is a medium-sized forest woodpecker with entirely black plumage and red to purple reflections on its stomach. It lives mainly in the island's tropical rainforest areas. The woodpecker has no sexual dimorphism. The species has adapted under the pressure of urbanization to more open forest environments. During the breeding season, it is a solitary bird that nests in holes it digs with its beak in the trunk of dead trees, mainly coconut, where the female lays 3 to 5 eggs. The eggs are incubated for 15 days before hatching, after which the adult female feeds the chicks in the nest for about a month. It was long considered near-threatened according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature due to its endemism, predation of its eggs and nests by black rats, its relatively low numbers, and the specificities of the archipelago, island topography, habitat fragmentation and urbanization. Great slaty woodpeckers are mostly seen in groups consisting of 3 to 6 individuals, which consist of a breeding pair and their young from prior years. Groups often forage on shared feeding sites in the form of nests of social insects as ants, termites, and wood-boring beetles. The groups will travel considerable distance to access these trees and, as such, the home ranges of the species are quite large. Occasionally, though, they will feed at lower levels in trees and even amongst saplings. It usually works a tree upwards and, though capable of swifter movements, has been described while foraging as if moving in slow motion. Probably because of their feeding and breeding dependence on large old trees, great slaty woodpeckers are most common in primary forests and show density reductions of over 80% in logged forests. Woodpeckers are chiefly known for their characteristic behavior. They mostly forage for insect prey on the trunks and branches of trees, and often communicate by drumming with their beaks, producing a reverberatory sound that can be heard at some distance. They usually nest and roost in holes that they excavate in tree trunks, and their abandoned holes are of importance to other cavity-nesting birds. They sometimes come into conflict with humans when they make holes in buildings or feed on fruit crops, but perform a useful service by their removal of insect pests on trees. The ivory-billed woodpecker is a possibly extinct woodpecker that is native to the bottomland hardwood forests and temperate coniferous forests of the southern United States. Habitat destruction and hunting have reduced populations so thoroughly that the species is listed by the International Union for Conservation of Nature on its red list as critically endangered, and by the American Birding Association as definitely or probably extinct. The last universally accepted sighting of an American ivory-billed woodpecker occurred in Louisiana in 1944. It is, or was, the largest woodpecker in the United States. Three-toed woodpeckers nest in a cavity in a dead conifer or sometimes a live tree or pole. The pair excavates a new nest each year. This bird is normally a permanent resident, but northern birds may move south and birds at high elevations may move to lower levels in winter. They forage on conifers in search of wood-boring beetle larvae or other insects. They may also eat fruit and tree sap. These birds often move into areas with large numbers of insect-infested trees, often following a forest fire or flooding. The toucan barbet is closely related to the toucans. It is a medium-sized barbet with a robust yellow bill. It is native to humid montane forests, where it occupies all levels of the canopy and is found in both primary and secondary forests, as well as forest edges. It is social, living in small family groups which work together to defend their territories and raise the chicks communally. It feeds on fruit and a range of animal prey, with insects being an important part of the diet of chicks. The species is considered to be near threatened, mainly due to trapping for the cage bird trade. It has also declined due to habitat loss, particularly the loss of large trees in which to breed, although the species is adaptable if left unmolested. Toucans are arboreal and typically lay 2 to 4 white eggs in their nests. They make their nests in tree hollows and holes excavated by other animals such as woodpeckers. The toucan bill has very limited use as an excavation tool. The colorful and large bill, which in some large species measures more than half the length of the body, is the hallmark of toucans. Despite its size, the toucan's bill is very light, being composed of bone struts filled with spongy tissue of keratin between them, which take on the structure of a biofoam. The bill has forward-facing serrations resembling teeth, which historically led naturalists to believe that toucans captured fish and were primarily carnivorous. Today it is known that they eat mostly fruit. Toucans are highly social and most species occur in groups of up to 20 or more birds for most of the time. Pairs may retire from the groups during the breeding season, then return with their offspring after the breeding season. Larger groups may form during eruptions, migration, or around a particularly large fruiting tree. The toucans are, due to their unique appearance, among the most popular and well-known birds in the world. Across their native range they were hunted for food and also kept as pets, and their plumage and bills were used for decorations. In some places anyone that discovers a nest is deemed its owner and is entitled to sell the birds within. Keel-billed toucans have zygodactyl feet, 2 toes face forward and 2 face back. Because toucans spend a large portion of time in the trees, this helps the birds to stay on the branches of the trees and jump from one branch to another. They fly in small flocks of approximately 6 to 12 individuals through lowland rainforests. Their flight is slow and undulating, consisting of rapid wing beats, then a glide with the bird's beak extending forward and dipping downward as though pulling the rest of the bird. Birds often duel with each other using their bills, and throw fruit into each other's mouths. They play ball, one throwing a fruit in the air and a second seizing it. The bill, surprisingly dexterous, allows this toucan to utilize a large variety of fruit that might not otherwise be reached. When eating the fruit, it uses its bill to dissect the fruit, and then tosses its head back to swallow the fruit whole. The toko toucan is the largest species of toucan and has a distinctive appearance, with a black body, a white throat, chest and upper tail coverts, and red undertail coverts. It's most conspicuous. Unlike other toucans, which inhabit continuous forests, toko toucans inhabit a variety of semi-open habitats at altitudes of up to 1750 meters. They mainly feed on fleshy fruits, but also supplement their diets with insects, eggs and nestlings of other birds. They will eat any available sugar-rich fruits, and show a high level of variation in their diet depending on the surrounding habitat. In its capacity to remove body heat, the bill is comparable to that of elephant ears. The ability to radiate heat depends upon air speed. If this is low, only 25% of the adult bird's resting heat production is radiated. If high, it radiates as much as 4 times this heat production. Toucans are one of the best-known neotropical birds, both internationally and domestically within their range. The resplendent quetzal is a small bird found in southern Mexico and Central America that lives in tropical forests, particularly montane cloud forests. It is mostly omnivorous. Its diet mainly consists of fruits of plants in the laurel family, but it occasionally also preys on insects, lizards and snails. The species is well known for its colorful and complex plumage that differs substantially between sexes. Males have iridescent green plumes. Though the quetzal's plumage appears green, they are actually brown due to the pigment melanin. These birds hollow holes in decaying trees or use ones already made by woodpeckers as a nest site. Resplendent quetzal generally display shy and quiet behavior to elude predators. In contrast, they are rather vocal during the mating season and their behavior is designated to exhibit and attract mates.